Hey Dance Fam, welcome to Purpose Chats with me, your host, Ashley Rich. This podcast was made with love for the dance community, so whether you're a dancer, dance teacher, studio owner, or an amazing dance parent, this podcast is for you. Each week we will discuss topics on all things dance and life, but always deeply rooted in wisdom, grace, and purpose. So with that, go grab a snack and let's jump in. Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Purpose Chats podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Rich, and obviously I have a special guest. She is a frequent guest of ours on this podcast, so she needs really no introduction, but we're going to intro her anyways. The amazing, that was the drum roll, Katie LaDuca, everyone. Let's give it up.
I love you.
Obviously,
Thank you.
She's amazing. You want to say anything to intro yourself? I mean, this is your third time with us. You can if you would like, but
Just happy and grateful to be here. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Okay, so today we're going to chat about our comp season and how it went. And I actually am not teaching at a studio this season, or I wasn't teaching at a studio this season. I was teaching in a college space. So my affiliation with competitions was judging, because I still judge competitions, can never get away. Just
Never.
love it.
Yeah.
But I wanted our perspective, like these two different perspectives of me being a judge this season and Katie having a really, really lit comp team. Actually, you have a few comp teams that you choreograph for. And I just want to hear like how your season went. How was comp for you, girl?
Yeah. Well, you know that I love competitive dance. And I am I'm at 3 studios right now. And I'm involved on their, competition faculty at all 3 of them. But my main group of kids, is the one I'm with out in Jersey, and we go to 3 competitions a year, and then we actually have our nationals at the end of June. And I feel like our season is going incredibly well, and not just because, honestly, like scores aside, like they blew me away, but I feel like we learned so much this season, and I watched my kids just like grow so much and learn so much about themselves, and they surprised themselves in ways that they didn't know were possible, and I just like could not be more proud of them.
Oh, I love that. And I know you also got some awards yourself.
Yes.
Did you get recognized for your choreography?
Yes. It's always really nice, when that happens, just as a teacher and choreographer, because we put so much work into this, and it is about the kids at the end of the day, but it takes a village, right? So I think like I had this, Joe Barry from Starbound. This was our first time at Starbound as a group, and I've never really had anyone stand up and encourage me, and 2 other choreographers as well, to stand up and really just speak life into us in that way in front of everyone. And it was just so genuine and authentic, and it was a moment that I will never forget because I appreciated it so much. So much. So it was really cool and special.
I love that. I think that that just says a lot too about, how beautiful comp can be. It doesn't have to be cutthroat. It can be a time where we can encourage each other, and I love that happened to you. I think that's a great example of how to do comp well, even from a judge's perspective, to encourage. Because I know a lot of times, like for the comp I judge for the most, we have to give special awards, right? That's a part of it.
Right.
But I always think of it as a time to encourage. And it's like, okay, I got a mic. If I'm going to have to talk, I'm going to encourage, if whether it be the kids or if I thought somebody's choreography really stood out or touched me, I wanna, I wanna encourage them. So I love that you got to be on the receiving end of that. I think that's really, really, really cool. And also, I think for your students to be able to see that and to be reminded so that they don't take you for granted because your choreography is special and it should be highlighted. I could be
Yeah,
biased because I love you so
yeah.
much, but
Thank
I don't
you.
think I am. I think it's lit.
Yeah, they
It's
work
just
so
lit, so
hard. They work so hard, and, I think what makes it special is, like, the team that we've created together, and this season, my kids have never placed first, and they got their first place overall this season. We've been working together, been at that studio for 8 years, this is a lot, and so we never put
wow.
any value in that, but to see them, put all of their faith and their trust in me, and to just go out there and be so vulnerable and so authentic and trust in the work that we've done, and to see it pay off in that way was just so incredibly special to watch.
Mm, I love that. Honestly, too, as you were talking and, like, just to like, your choreography is amazing, right? And I'm glad it got highlighted, and I think it got highlighted and it resonates with people because it comes from a place of intention no matter what style you're choreographing. It's very like, you can connect as a human being, and I feel like this is, like, for studios just to know, from my perspective of, like, judging a lot now, it's like, I wanna watch dances that I can connect to or that I can tell that the students understand what they're dancing about and for, and it doesn't always have to be such a complex story, but I think it's so refreshing, especially, like, let's be real, we're sitting there all day,
Mhm.
day after day after day, for a weekend judging. I
Mm.
think the things that really resonate are the things that we can, like, connect. We're humans. So even at let's take judging out of it. Like, we're human beings watching and receiving, the choreography that's on stage. So if a student is just, like, performing and just doing the choreography, that's not gonna do anything. But if they have, like, sunk their teeth into it, if they have, like, done the work, if they have become this
Mhm.
dance, we can resonate with that. We can tell. We're like, "Oh, you did the work." So,
Yeah.
automatically, I'm gonna sit up in my seat. And
Right.
then when you connect as a human, like, wow, I feel like I'm seeing your heart on stage regardless of what it is. It just makes it so much better, and I feel like every piece that I watch Katie produce has been that. And I think produce is the right word because I feel like you don't just, like, choreograph, you think about the whole picture. Not It's like costuming, it's staging, it's everything, and I just love it.
Thank you. I
I
really
just had to say
appreciate
that because,
that,
like,
and
I wish that I wouldn't be able to judge your pieces because I would just be like I would stand up and be like, "Standing ovation for every piece." Obviously. And honestly, you're my sisters,
let
so that'd be weird.
okay.
They would definitely not let me judge your pieces. Be like, "This is what we need." But I wish that I could for the simple fact of just being able to, like, enjoy as a judge. Because I
I
feel like we just have to remember, like, there's, like I think I just judged an event, there was, like, 525 dances that weekend. How are you gonna stand out?
Well,
How are
yeah,
you
and
gonna stand
I
out in the
love what you
crowd?
said. I love what you said about like the message, because for me, competitive dance is not about like the competing. It's about the platform that we're using to
Mhm,
spread the message that people need to hear, right? So, like, not only am I trying to choreograph
yeah,
intentionally, I'm thinking about what do my kids need in this moment? What do I need in this moment? What do people need to hear in this moment, right? So, like, I try to choose everything.
mhm,
And then we move from a place of like, what's going to get the message across as authentically as possible, right? What's going to make them hear us? And that's working together as one and being
mhm,
purposeful and intentional. So, like,
yes,
when the goal is spreading that message and not the platinum, or not even like the adjudication or the judges, I always say don't waste this opportunity. There's one person needs to hear this. You're put here for a reason. You're going to share that, and they're going to be changed. And there have been people that have come up to my kids, come up to me, and just like have expressed that, and it's just like that's why we do it.
I love that. I actually remember watching a piece and I was like, "Thank you for this," because, like, I know there's someone in the audience behind me right now that needed this. And I think it's so important, like you said, it's a platform. What are you doing with that platform? And I think sometimes kids, like, forget when they're competing, that's their platform. Everybody wants to be a social have a social media platform. Everybody wants to, go viral and all these things, but it's like we forget that we have platforms within our everyday lives. And so,
Mhm.
like, dancers, if you're listening, don't forget that your platform is the stage. It is comp. Like, take your pieces serious, and I hope that you have teachers who give you pieces that actually, like, resonate with you, or that you can connect to, and you can tell, like, really great stories that might bring healing to people, might bring clarity to people. Like, you have no idea, and if you're like, it's not that deep, it's just dance, you would be surprised. Like, the experience that Katie's had with people, like, telling her, like, oh, that dance changed my life, or all these different things, that's happened to me. I've, like, talked to people and I'm like, "Really? That wasn't my intention." You just never know how your piece is gonna land on the audience, so that's why you always wanna be honest and pure with the work that you put up there, and it might not, I'm not even talking about just contemporary, 'cause I think sometimes we limit, like, storytelling to contemporary. Like, be a jazz piece, it could be a musical theater piece, it can be a hip hop piece, and it really,
Yeah.
like, I remember one city I was like, "Yo, this hip hop, like, their hip hop was on fire." It was my like, this it wasn't just one studio too, but it was just, like, a really great city for hip hop, and I was like, "Yo, you guys touched my heart." Like, I was just
Amazing.
so joyful, so if you think that it's limited to contemporary, then you got another thing coming.
Yep.
It's just like being intentional with the choreography, being intentional with the costuming, being intentional with the whole thing, and making sure that you are coming at it as a producer, a
Mhm.
director. Like, that is what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, like, step into it, teachers. You can do this. And it
Yes.
it makes for, honestly, I think even for, like, different studios that are attending, I think it's nice for the other students to watch other dancers, and we want them to learn from other dancers on the stage. So I think even that, like, oh, like, I love that dance, and, like, having these moments where you can chat about dances that really touched you as a teacher with your students, I think that that's really cool too, and it shows, like, humbleness, teaching them to learn from other artists. So I think there's,
It's
like, so many benefits in it.
It's so important, and, like, it's so funny. We'll be watching my kids and I will be watching, like, people practice in the hallway, and we'll be like, "Oh, we're not missing that dance." And I always tell them, "Don't hold the goodness in. If you have something to say that's good, go say it. If you loved their dance, say it. If you love their costume, go say it. I want you to be the leaders in that way." Because I always say, like, when someone comes up to you and compliments you, how does that make you feel, right? So I want you to take that. I want you to go spread it, and don't wait. Don't wait. And this goes with teachers as well. I always think, like, I want to lead by example in every possible way, right? So the other choreographers that get recognized, like, I reach out, I say congratulations, I compliment their work, because, and this is all authentic and honest things that I think, but I need them to see me doing that, right? I can't just tell them that. I need to put action behind my words as well. It's a group effort. We're all in this together. So I think that's something that's, like, really, really
Mhm.
important. And like you said, we always discuss, actually, when my kids go there, I give them, like, they have to talk about at least three pieces from other studios that they liked, why they
Mm.
liked it, what made it special, right? It's about the education behind it. Or else, like, I could go to Toys R Us and get you a trophy, but it's like there's so much more to competitive dance, and that's why I love it so much. And sometimes people are like, why do you love it so much? But it's like because of the way that I approach it with them, and it's just created this, like, family
Mhm.
and this joy and this other element that teaches them, like, life skills, down to who's going up for an award, right? So I'm not just watching, like, I'm watching how they're behaving, how they're speaking to their parents, if they're going out of their way to, like, show kindness to others.
Mhm.
That's what I'm thinking about, because in my opinion, going up and representing your group,
Hmm.
and one of my pieces, to be honest with you, because we work really hard on these, and that as, like, a
Mhm.
choreographer, right?
Yes.
I think that that's a
Yes.
privilege. I think it's a privilege to go up there and speak on behalf. Sometimes, like, you have to speak on behalf
Mhm.
of your team, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything without intention. Anything. Every decision that I make is
Yeah.
intentional.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much, and I really love that you said it's a privilege. Dancers, when you go up and they ask you when you go get your award and they ask you who choreographed this, I want you to make sure you know your teacher's first and la or your choreographer's first and last name, and you say it loud and proud because you have no idea. It's not just the work in the studio. They have spent countless hours outside of the studio, probably sleepless nights,
Hmm.
thinking about how to make you and or your group look your best. They deserve that moment for you to at least say your name right. There's so many times where I've given a judge's award away and I've asked a student like, your name, okay, great. Your choreographer, and they're like, and these aren't just little kids. Or they're like, oh, Miss Katie. No, you say Katie LaDuca. You say that name strong
Yeah.
and you make sure you say it loud and proud because she deserves that moment with you guys. So I think it's just like remembering to respect everybody who's been a part of that process. Just like you scream your studio name out, scream that choreographer's name out too. Because without that beautiful mind of theirs, you would not be up there getting that award,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
It all
Period.
starts somewhere,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it's a team effort. They're a part of your team. So make sure you acknowledge them and give them, that love that they've given you too. So I think that's just love comp. What are some things that you've noticed this season and comp that you're like, I wish we can do better. I hope that we can do better as a whole, like dance industry and competition as a whole. Is there anything
I have a
that
few.
you
I have
see?
a few. Um, I wanna touch on. I do. I have a few. I want to touch on the leotard and no tight situation. I feel very strongly about this. I know. I listen. I get very passionate, Ashley.
Did not expect you to say.
You
I
didn't?
know. I just didn't know we were jumping into that, but it's
Oh no,
funny.
I'm
No,
jumping
you're just
in.
I love that. You talked
I'm
about
jumping
that.
in because you know
Yeah,
what?
go in.
Yeah, like and I talk about this. I started a teacher training series and I go into this in detail because
Yes.
here's the thing. I think that there can be like a leotard no tight situation if the choreo allows for that and doesn't put the child, again,
Mhm.
child in an uncomfortable position. And
Children.
I would also like to stress their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. They don't even know how they feel about it. And so it's our job to protect them and not
Mhm.
put them in that situation. I don't think that you should be doing leg holds and tilts or anything with your crotch to the audience in a leotard with no tights.
Mhm.
That's just a personal, if you
I
do, okay,
agree.
maybe like I don't know, but I see a lot of like long leg holds where it's just like easy fixes, like just turning your body, right? Like there could be, but for
Yes.
some reason
Yes.
educators aren't really thinking about that. And I don't know what it is or why. Maybe it's because of this was the norm and how we were trained, but I'm trying to not train that way because it was detrimental to
Mhm.
our mental health. And plus, it puts the audience in an uncomfortable position. And think about it. They're not going to like, do you think they're going to feel comfortable saying like, I don't really
No.
like, they're not going to, unless like you train them that way, which I train my students to speak up if they're uncomfortable. That's what I want from them. But a lot of people don't. So it's like
Yes.
they don't have that. And like, would you think about it? Would you want to be doing that right now in your body right now? Would you want to be in a leotard and no tights?
Absolutely not.
No, not in a million years. Couldn't pay me enough. Couldn't.
Couldn't pay me enough.
So it's just like
Ah,
there are ways, I understand aesthetically. I understand like dance, right? It's dance, leotard. I get it. But think about the safety of the child first. And plus, a lot of them are young women. They're getting, starting their period. They're getting like these things, and it's uncomfy for them. Let's make it comfy. Let's make it comfortable and safe. You're putting them up there on display.
yes. Yes. To everything you just said. Honestly, I couldn't agree more. I think that they would perform better because they'd be more comfortable. they would perform more confidently because, to be honest, we're dealing with the age bracket of like, however old they are, honestly, up to 18 and like body image. Like, come on, they're like learning how to feel comfortable in their body. And then we're putting them up there wearing barely anything. And we want them to feel confident. And then having them wear a leotard with no tights under, it is uncomfortable. Literally, me watching is like, I'm like cringing, like, please, like, I just want to make sure that nothing slips. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many pieces I've watched where I'm like holding my breath. And then it's
And you're
like,
not
all
even
right,
focused on
I'm so
judging.
worried about your
You're
costume.
mm-hmm.
It's so distracting. And that might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm just being honest. And I'm trying to give you some game here to help you out. Like, because it's not just me. And if you ask any judge, maybe they won't tell you the truth, but that's not why we're here. I'm going to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Yeah.
It's very distracting. It's distracting. And it's like that costume, it doesn't have to be like that. It can literally wear if you want to wear no tights, then put a biker on. It's easy fix. And like
Yep.
like bikers that aren't going to ride up either. I'm not talking
Nah.
about like booty shorts. I'm talking about some bikers, I think and if you don't want to, wear tights. And I think that's totally fine. I think everybody in the room will appreciate it, especially the dancer on stage. And I love that she said, would you want to wear a Leo with no tights?
Right?
Couldn't pay me to walk out of a dressing room without just a Leo. Like, no. And then dance?
I know.
Not with this 30-something body. No.
No.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So like, I think just like remembering we're humans, remembering these dancers are humans, they're young women a lot of times, like, that we're talking about right now, that are developing. We want to make sure they're comfortable and that they feel their best. And I don't know if like putting them in a leotard with no tights is going to make them feel their best.
Well, and people will argue, right? They'll be like, well, in the dance industry, you're going to have to go on stage and wear things, da da da. And it's like, okay, but they're children. And
You're grown by that time.
yes. And honestly, let's be real. More than half of my kids don't want to be professional dancers, right? Like, let's be completely honest. This is like their sport for a lot of them. This is their basketball. This is their softball. Like, this is that for them. And this is like a huge, we aid in their development as humans. So it's our responsibility. This is like, I really feel strongly about it, that it's our responsibility to keep them safe, and to showcase them in the best possible light when they're on stage.
Yes. I love that you brought that up. It really makes my heart sad when I see a dancer.
What would you bring
honestly,
up?
I can tell when the dancer feels uncomfortable. Just like,
say it.
Okay, let me think. What is at the top of my list? The costuming. Honestly, I just did a podcast with T, and we talked a lot about costuming. So I feel like I got a lot of that off my chest about the correct tight color. So I'm not going to drag that into this episode. But, okay. I'm saying this with love. I just want to encourage everyone out there to know that you do not have to put silicone turns in every dance. It's actually something that can distract from the storyline when not put in a proper place. And sometimes it's not needed at all. It's not needed sometimes. Like, it's just not needed. There are some times where I'm like, all right, fierce. And it's like, okay, whatever, it works with this piece and I love it. But then there are pieces where I feel like it could be left out and it's okay. So I think with that, I think there's this thing I want to hopefully release some choreographers out there that feel like they need to do it. Or if like, your studio owner is like, you need to put that in, or sometimes it's pressure from the parents because they're seeing competitions and they're seeing everybody do it. Just because everybody does it doesn't mean it's right. Remember that. And when you come in, with your own artistic voice. This actually goes back to saying, like I was mentioning earlier that I watched like over 500 pieces in the weekend, and I probably like to this day only remember maybe 10 of them from that weekend. And I will tell you why I remember those 10 pieces. It's because they are artistic, they had beautiful movement, and it didn't feel all over the place, and it was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I remember it. And it's not like that was the only one genre. It was like an array of genres, right? So I just will feel like we need to get out of that thing that we feel like we have to throw unnecessary turns in every piece just to showcase that they can do it. Like, I think it's
Yeah.
great. I think it's a great skill to have because you need, like, yes, I understand. I think developmentally in their technique, it's a great to have that because I think it's important in Eurocentric technique to have that skill. But you're not going to do that like on stage unless it calls for it in your professional career. If you do want a professional career in dance, it's not like they're going to say, all right, you can do Alice on turns unless the job calls for it. But that's very rare.
Bro,
So I think it's a great skill to have for your center, for your technique. It's beautiful. But we have to make sure that we're like, there's been pieces that I've watched that I'm literally on the edge of tears, and all of a sudden they bust out turns and I'm like, whoa,
takes you out of
I
it,
was
right out of
transported
it.
and I'm out of it. And I'm like, man, you didn't need that.
Yep.
Honestly, I think we need to remember, like, movement matters. Movement matters. And if that's not your thing, that you're like, oh, I like more, like, if you have seen my choreo, I love to throw some, grounded movement in there. I like to have like different dynamics. I love to showcase some technique and all of that. And I think it has a place for all of that. It's just how you do it and making sure it makes sense. Like, make it make sense for the piece that you're doing. If you're doing like this super technical jazz and you just decide like this is a vibe, good, keep it consistent, that works. But if you're doing like this piece that has nothing with, and you're like, oh, I feel like I need to do turns just so the judges, first of all, no judge is the same. And
Mm.
judges are so different. We have such diverse backgrounds that you cannot go into it trying to please the judges. You have to go into it putting your heart into your piece and making sure that you like resonate with it, that it has intentionality, and that the dancer can resonate with it and resonate with what they're performing. It literally should have nothing to do with what the judges think or what they're gonna how you're gonna place. If you go into it with that mindset, oh, we're gonna put these in because the judges are gonna like it, you're setting your dancer up for failure because they're gonna base all of their value on what the judges think, and you're not allowing them to really like go into it as a human. And I think if we start using language like, you're gonna like, this piece showcases you so well, and I want you to share your heart on that stage and show the hard work that you've put into it. Boom. Like, no matter what
Mm-hmm.
you do up there, however it lands, know that you're loved and you're seen and you matter and your story that you're telling matters, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think those are the things we need to say. Not, you better hit those turns, because it might not be a great turn day. It's just life, right? And I think it's like I said, time and place. I think in some pieces, go for it. Others, let's reevaluate. I think that was like my top thing is like, it doesn't, like, Alice Cone turns or fouettes don't need to be in every single piece.
Mm.
But that's just my personal preference. I love movement,
Well, I
but I
love
love
what
a
you
good
said
bop now
about
too. So
like,
like, it's like,
yeah.
to me,
I love what you said about your artistic voice because I think it's like really especially hard for like a lot of young choreographers, right? Just starting, a lot of younger teachers. And nowadays I feel like there are more young choreographers starting to do this, which is great. Um,
mhm,
but at that age, you're still developing who you are as a person, let alone who you are as an artist and a choreographer. So because
mhm.
I've been doing this for so long and made a lot of mistakes, I've grown a lot. I've learned. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. Like, I know one of a lot of the judges,
Same.
especially like with one of my pieces this year, they're like, wow, I've never seen anything like this. And it's like, well, because there's only one me, right? I'm the only me. No one could produce this because it's me,
Yes.
authentically and wholly, you know? So
Yes.
when you really lock into
Mhm.
that and you trust that and know that, nobody could take that away from you.
Yeah. And you're gonna stand out. Your piece is gonna stand out because you're being you. So,
Hmm.
like, if you walk in a room, I always tell my students when they go on an audition, make sure you show up as you. Don't show up as a representative of whoever else is in the room. Like, don't acclimate to everybody in the room. Like, don't do that because then you're gonna be a wallflower and nobody's gonna see you. You walk in that room and be you unapologetically,
And it's
respectfully.
hard.
Be
It's a
you.
hard ask.
And
you know?
It
It's
is.
hard.
It is. But the
Vulnerability
sooner
is
that you're
hard.
you, the more it is. I just feel like dance for me shifted. Even as a teacher, I talk about this a lot in my classes this year. Like, make sure you're showing up as you so you can enjoy the full experience of this class. If you
Mhm.
show up for like as who you think I want you to be, you'll never enjoy it because you
No.
have no idea what I want and I
Mhm.
have no expectations. I just want you to be the best you. Like if anything, those are my expectations that you grow as you.
Yes.
Nothing else. I have no preconceived, like, I want them to get this many turns. I want them to get this. I don't care about that. I want you to grow as humans. And when you grow as a human, you're going to grow as a dancer, period. There's no
Mhm.
one without the other. So I think it's just remembering that when you show up as you, dancer, choreographer, even studio directors, when you show up as you into a space, it encourages everybody else around you to do that. And I think that the more that we take those risks and like maybe have to educate parents at our studio like we might go to comp and you might see everybody do this and you might see them do a bunch of this acro and all these things and maybe that's not your voice like you don't have to like you have to know your audience and it's okay that your piece might not resonate with anybody in the room but one maybe that's just not your room and that's okay. That doesn't mean
Mhm.
you dim your light any less. And I think I've like really had to learn that like everybody's not going to love my choreo and that's really okay. It's not for them then. If it doesn't resonate, if they
It's
don't
not for
feel like
you.
they can connect, it ain't for them. It's for the people. It might be for the two people in the room in the way back or walking in
Mhm.
at the last second that needed that last A count and that shifted something for them. That's who it's for. And that you kind of have to try and it's a honestly, I still have to remind myself, like, you are not supposed to be like anybody else. You're supposed to be like Ashley Rich. Get over it,
Mhm. Yeah.
But when you get there and you actively try and remind yourself and like remind your students, it just makes it for a better experience, you know?
Yeah.
So that's like my biggest takeaway from this comp season is that.
I will say too,
Mhm.
I was surprised with the amount of like unedited music this year. I felt like a few times I would have to take my
Wow, wow,
kids
wow.
back, to the studio and explain why that wasn't, that's not what we do and that's not um that wasn't necessarily okay because I just feel like when I say unedited, I mean like
I
curse
know, I want
words
you to
and
clarify.
all. I mean curse words and all. So like for me because I have strong
Wow.
opinions on what children should be dancing to at certain ages, and what they can relate to in their own life experience, right? Like that's
Mhm.
one topic in and of itself and something that's discussed and the pendulum
Mhm.
swings, right? Like there's so many opinions on
Yeah.
appropriateness of music and age and all these things. So that aside, just like the not clean versions. And I don't know if it's a mistake. I don't know, but you're again,
Yeah.
know your audience. Know your audience. You're not performing at the Super Bowl. Like you're this is like a children's event. What?
Katie, I almost walked out.
But you're not. You know?
No, but you're right.
You're
You're
not.
right. And I don't think we have to go that far. And it makes it uncomfortable. Yeah, there are some songs this year. I will say that I was like, I like this song, but you shouldn't be dancing to it. You're
Yeah.
12.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, no. Actually, this just happened. Actually, it was younger than that. There was a dance that I felt like the dancers were too young to be dancing, and I think they were like under 10. And I felt like the dance was like the song was very advanced for their space in life
Yeah.
point, that age. And I was kind of like, man, like it's okay for kids to be kids. I think that's
Yes.
like let's also like throw that out there. It's okay for kids to be kids. It's okay for teens to be teens because like I get it when when they get to like 16 and up, it's kind of like, all right, we could do some sassier dances. And
Right.
honestly, I have had to reflect on my own like songs in the past and be like, girl, what were you
Same.
thinking?
Same.
And like I
Same.
think that's
Same.
why it's like growth. We've both gone through this. So we just want to help like specifically younger teachers. Like we've been there. We've made silly decisions before.
Yes.
So it's not like we're judging. It's like I've looked past on past Ashley, and I'm like, "Girl, I wish somebody woulda been like, 'Girl, why? Why
And
did you use that song?'"
I think
You
that
know, like,
there's a
they couldn't relate.
difference. There's a difference between using it in a classroom setting, right? In a safe space, like where
Mhm.
you're especially when they get to like 16-ish years old, and some of them do want to go to LA, and some of them do want to, right?
Mhm.
We and like the difference between sexualization and exploration, right? Letting them explore in a safe environment instead
Mhm.
of putting them on display
Yes.
in a certain way. And I think it goes back to knowing your intentions about everything. So like what I do now, there are songs
That
that
is
I do
so true.
combos to that people might not agree with, but I know my intentions behind it. Whether it's a matter of wanting them to
Mhm.
be exposed to the artist for certain reasons, or could talk about certain
Mhm.
elements, whatever it is, but we're doing it in a safe space, and we're not showcasing that,
Yep.
and so like I think
100%.
the beautiful, like
Yeah.
the juxtaposition of like you can't teach them that you're moving your body for someone else, right? You're moving it for you.
Mhm.
This is you. We're not
Yes.
doing anything for anyone
Yeah.
else. So I think it gets really hard, especially with the younger kids, especially with these facial expressions that they make. Sometimes it's just like, I wonder what's happening. I saw a lot of like tongue out kind of things, and it was like really bothering me. And
Yes.
I just think like you can tell if it comes from an honest and authentic place, because kids can be silly, right? Like you can tell.
Of
You can tell the
course. Yeah.
difference. You can tell the difference. And I don't think that 10-year-olds should be dancing to a song with the word drunk or, sober. Like they can't relate. So what that tells me is that you're thinking about you as a choreographer. This is not your time to work through your own personal stuff and put it on your young kids.
Ooh, that's a word.
It's
Yeah.
it's not. And also like when you get older, sure, but there's a difference. You can have something. I know what certain dances mean to me, but I can relate it to them in a way that's healthy for them. I'm not going to put my stuff onto them.
Yes.
That's not for them to carry. It's unhealthy, right? There's a boundary
Yeah.
there, so I can get what I need
That's
from them in a way that's relatable and healthy for them.
wow. So good. That was very well said. I agree. Like, I agree. I think
You-
that we forget that. Like, because like, I was thinking about younger me when you were talking, and, like, I feel like that would have been very helpful. Because I think when I was younger, I used to, like, be like, "Alright, this is what we're doing a piece about," and it's like, they couldn't relate to that, but now it's like, I just move differently. So it's like, I do try to, like, relate it to what they're going through and their level, and, like, like, and I do explain the difference, like, "This is what I'm walking through."
Mhm.
When you're setting a piece, it's like a different kind of vulnerability, so it's like being vulnerable, like, "This is where this piece is coming from, but this is also how I can relate it to what you're walking through too." And then, like,
Mhm.
having open, vulnerable conversations with them, but that's also older dancers, right? So I also love that you talked about the exploration. I think something that I love talking about with my students, like, don't be afraid to move your hips, they're your hips. But you need to own that with the authority God's given you as a strong dancer, and you go
Absolutely.
up there and be fierce because God made you to be that. You don't
Yeah.
shrink, you have power within you.
Yep.
'Cause you have God within you. Like, it's like, no, you have the
Yeah.
Lord within you. You don't have to, like, dim your light, but you need to make sure you remember who you are, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that there's a difference. It's, like, not sexy. Let's stop doing the sexy thing with kids. I think that's just really weird.
Yep.
It's better to talk, like, and use language like power.
Yes.
Like, you wanna use your inner power. You have so much greatness within you. Let that come in, that confidence. Like, what does confidence look like? And honestly, I tell my college dancers who obviously are 18 and up, "I don't wanna see you do this combo sexy. This is not a sexy combo. I wanna see you move with power and authority,
Mhm.
and you own where you're standing in this room because there's only one you. So nobody in this room is as good as you because there's only one you.
Mhm.
Everybody in this room is their own, like, great person. We don't need to compare. So you need to dance out of that space rather than, all the other stuff. I just think it does dancers a disservice. And I think when you think about more like who, like, okay, like, God made me, so that means I'm lit.
Yeah.
And, like, I have that power. I'm gonna dance from a place of confidence. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna, like,
And
shrink
freedom.
up or
And
I think when
freedom.
we dance yeah, and freedom. I think when we dance from an insecure place, that's when we start dancing sexy.
Or if you want to
I
move
think that,
sensually, if it
when
comes
we're
from within, then if it's coming from you wholly and fully, I
yes.
celebrate it in a safe environment.
Mhm.
Celebrate it. And
Yes, because I
but
mean,
it has to be
we're
safe.
grown.
It
So
has to be safe. That's the thing, like you said,
yes.
that you can
Yeah.
only have those vulnerable, open, and honest conversations and create the work, honestly, like you see my students and I create. You can only do that with safety, emotional safety in a space.
Yes. They have to feel emotionally heard, emotionally seen, and emotionally safe
Yep.
to be able to do that. And I think there are dancers I've had friends who I feel like are just automatically more like sensual dancers. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's just but it's also part of their personality. They might be a little bit more spicy and I think that's
Yeah.
okay. God made us different for a reason. So I'm not saying you need to like meh, meh, meh. Nobody said that. It's just like let's make sure the content that we're like putting on these students is appropriate. And it's okay to look at your past and be like, "I didn't make a good decision," but it's like, "Where are we going now?" So
Hmm.
I know every year I'm like, "Could have done that better. Could have done that better. Let's do better now." Like, that's why we wanna
If I
all
think about some of the
consistently
things.
grow and evolve. Like, even earlier in the fall, I'm like, "I really didn't love that piece. I could have done it differently." It's like, okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's why we're artists. We're continuously growing. I would hope that we don't stop and we're like, "We have arrived." I don't wanna arrive in my mid-30s. I hope I have lots of growth to go, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, I I love that. I love that you brought that up. Mm. Well, what have you learned about yourself as a teacher this season
Whew.
since we're coming to a close with this season of dance?
um I've learned to communicate my boundaries in order to show up as my
Mm,
best self for me, my students, and my employers. Because if I'm overextending myself, I'm not going to show up wholly and fully. And they deserve that, and I deserve that. So it's okay to, I also am very candid with this about my students. For example, we had competition
mhm.
weekends are very long, right? So we'll be there from like 6 in the morning
Super
to
long.
like midnight, right? And I had one soloist. There was a ton of other teachers there, right? I watched her perform. She was amazing. We had another like hour and a half before her award ceremony. I was not feeling
Mhm.
well. I had all my group dances the next day. I looked at my boss and I was just like, she looked at me. I didn't even have to say anything. She was like, "We got it. We'll take it from here. You go back to the hotel and go get some rest." I said, "Thank you." I took my dancer and I was like, "I love you, and here's what I'm doing. Okay, I have to go. I'm gonna watch from live stream.
Mhm.
I'm gonna take care of me so that tomorrow I could take care of you. I love you. Amazing job,
Mhm.
right?" Because not only am I being honest and open with her, I'm also teaching her that she needs to take care of herself so that she can show up for her team, for her parents, for her teachers. So I think it's like I learned to do that and then be open with them about where I'm at in my thought
Mm.
process and what lessons I want to teach them in life.
That's so good. I feel like I learned that it's okay to do that this year even more. I feel like my biggest thing is I stepped into another level of vulnerability as a teacher and not feeling like I have to be a superhero and
Mm.
not feeling like I have to be superhuman. That I can literally walk in and be like, guys, I just had the roughest day of my life.
Yep.
I'm holding on by a thread.
Yes.
And being like, my 100% today is not going to be the same 100 that I had yesterday, but I'm going to give you what I have. And making that okay. And honestly, I felt a huge shift in my second semester. Obviously, if you didn't know, this is like my first full year of being an adjunct professor at these two schools that I work with, and it's been a learning process because it is very different from studio world. And I've loved it because I just feel like I needed a shift in my life teaching wise, but it has been a learning curve. So I feel like the difference between my first semester, me feeling like, okay, number one, I'm just like figuring it out. Number two, I have to have it all together. And really like having like just different things pop up that I wasn't being wasn't able to hold it together. I feel like
Yeah.
God was like humbling me, like, girl, no, sit down and you gotta
Yeah.
be real. And then coming in my second semester being like, hey guys, this is where I'm at. We're gonna have a really great semester.
Yeah.
And this is what it is, but, and taking it day by day, like, obviously, I had a lesson plan, like, it's life, like, we have lesson plans as teachers, but then knowing to be flexible, knowing when to be flexible, when to read the room. There would be times where I had a lesson plan that it was, like, a really full out day, and I was like, "We doing this?" You know those days where you, like, walk
Yes.
in and you're
Oh
like,
yeah.
"We're about
Yeah.
to do all of this
Oh
today."
yeah.
Go in. And
You're about to be sore.
we're about to do you're gonna be sore, like,
You're
coming
gonna
in
be
like, "Guys, good
sore.
luck. We're about
Yeah.
to do
Yes.
a 20-minute cardio, and then we're gonna do a nice little stretch, and then we're going to go across the floor. We're gonna do really hard stuff, and then I'm giving
Yeah.
you the combo of your life," like,
Yeah.
on fire, right? I
Yeah.
would come
Yeah.
in like that, and then I would read the room, and we always
Yes.
start my class with a circle, like, "How are you feeling? Goals for the day, for
Yes. Me too.
class, but give me a dance goal, a mindset goal, and then how are you feeling? Give me one word." And, if majority of the circle is like, "I feel like trash today.
Yep.
I actually didn't wanna come, but I'm here. I wanna cry." Like, if that's the vibe, I'm like, "Kate, we need to recalibrate. It's so
Yeah.
not just about me and what I want. It's like, how am I gonna be effective in this room?"
Mm-hmm.
My goal has shifted as a teacher and has
Yes.
shifted from results to I want them to walk out of here feeling different and
Yep.
feeling lighter. And that is my goal. And being able to shift that. I feel like so in my vulnerability, I noticed if I started because I had to set the tone and I'd be like, all right, guys, it's a great day. Like, I had a great day today, or this is my win for the day, and like sharing and then being like, okay, like I had a win. And it could have been like I had a great cup of coffee, and then realizing that they could say something like so small, but that brought them joy,
Mm-hmm.
or me saying, like, oh, I had a really horrible day. I got really horrible news today. And then them feeling that permission to be like, I actually failed a midterm and like, or
Mm.
not really, but you know what I mean? Like
Right. Right.
different things
Right.
that they
Yeah.
just felt like, okay, well, I'm going through a really hard time and it being okay. I think
Because you
just
were
setting that tone
vulnerable with
was like
them.
a yes. And yeah, and I feel like, I feel like I've done that in the past, like tried to be really intentional, obviously, with how I teach. It's like my whole like life motto. But I think
Mhm.
just like further stepping into that vulnerability has been really nice this year and me feeling like just releasing what I feel like their expectations are and realizing I might not be everybody in the room's cup of tea, and I don't need to be, but I can be a voice for them to support them and to obviously teach them more in dance. Yes, but like be there
Yeah.
for them and give them that space. And I think that shifted. My whole second semester was really beautiful. I feel like no matter what, we walked through it together. And honestly, just even our last day, we had to talk about like their biggest things they learned and all these. And it was just so lovely, to be honest. And this is just like, yeah. So, with one group across the board, majority of them said their favorite highlight was our circle time and them getting to hear
Ah,
not just to talk, but then to hear where everybody else in the room was at so that they
yeah.
could give each other grace.
It's
Like, for
yes.
me, it's the dream is
Yes,
for
and
them
it's
to get it and
important.
give grace and be human. So the fact that they said that, Katie, I was, like, tearing up. I was like,
And you know what?
"Thank you, Lord, because this is what I needed."
yes. And people like that's the thing. It's like sometimes I think like people are like, why are you taking so long to talk? And it's like you don't realize how important this is. Like that
Mhm.
circle, that is the basis of and the foundation of the class. So for me to skip that and just like
Yes.
uh, it makes no sense and is unintentional. Like it makes no sense. And also like I want to relate to them on a human level. When you show interest in them as a
Yes.
human, right? They're like, "Oh, they care." And it's like, "Yes, I care. I care about you as a person." Right? Like I think it just
Yeah.
opens up that safety net.
Yeah. No, I
I love that.
agree. And I think that like something that I would I don't know, I loved that something that my teacher did that I really feel like as I just get older, I'm like, wow, I understand why she did certain things. She just was really human with us and never put herself above us as our teacher. I feel like and it
Mm,
wasn't like she was our friend, like we definitely knew was our teacher and we weren't gonna cross that boundary. Like she did not play
yeah.
with us. But like she was just at my bridal shower and I had a really small bridal shower with just family and the fact that she was there and that this is like my childhood dance teacher and I'm in my 30s and she was at my bridal shower, I think says a lot. And says a lot
Yeah.
about like how important dance teachers really are. And I'm sure coaches and other sports is the same, but obviously we're talking about dance. But like I feel like she just always made me feel like I can talk to her. She always made me feel seen and heard, and that is why she was there at a very
Hmm.
important moment in my life. And I think that we have to remember that these are humans, that they want to connect. So I think that just being more vulnerable and making sure that we're not like walking in with this air. And I definitely have done that in the past when I felt like I needed to. Like it's like
Yes.
I definitely look younger. So I used to feel this pressure of like, I don't want them to think I'm the same age as them. I'm
Hmm.
definitely like way older than them, but they're gonna think I'm 12. So I have to be walk in and be like, I'm your teacher. And like, I guess everybody kind of has to go through their own evolution, right? So it is what it
Hmm.
is. But if I could give anybody younger advice, it'd be that you don't need that. Just walk in and love them and
Yeah.
they'll respect you because you see them and you hear. And obviously there's times where I still have to work on it. We have to have conversations like about respect sometimes, like, that's just life dealing with
Yeah.
young people, and
Yes.
it's just life. You're guiding young people, so it's not always gonna be perfect, obviously, but I think that when you come in with that respect for them and you don't put yourself above them just because
Hmm.
you're older, but it's like, "I'm here. Yes, I am, like, a leader because that is my space of which I am for you, but I still respect you. We're
Hmm.
here. I'm
Yep.
not any better than you."
Yes.
And I feel like that changes the room,
Yeah. I
you know?
agree wholeheartedly.
So it's been lovely. Yeah, and honestly, there'll be times where I ask my students, I've walked into being a step parent now, and so it's kind of funny now, like, I'll ask some of my students that I know who are step kids, I'm like, "Do you have any advice? Please
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
know."
Please. Yeah.
And I think it just creates like it just, like, helps. It's like, okay, well, like, if there's something that I know that they know, I'm like, "Oh, okay, like,
I learn
you have
from
any
my
advice for
kids
me?"
every
Like,
day.
or yes, like we're humans. So
Yep.
that might be unpopular, but I don't care. It's life. I think that there's students that we still have that are going to be in our life forever.
Yeah.
And it's because they felt vulnerable enough and we've walked through life together. I had I had a student at our summer intensive last year and I was just like looking at her like, wow, we went through the trenches with
Oh, yeah.
you. You
Oh,
know who
yeah.
you are. But
Yeah, you do.
felt like but I remember sitting back and wanting to cry looking at the growth and being like, wow, 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 what a beautiful young lady right now. Like, I just
Hmm.
can't even believe the things that
Pride.
she's, like, doing in her life, and it's just, like, makes you so, like, happy, right? And
Yeah.
it just and she's not even the only one. It's just, like, sitting with them now and they're grown and you being like, "Wow, it was all worth it
Yeah.
because we were vulnerable and we were real, and we still have a really beautiful relationship, and we're able to help them and to help them navigate certain things now in this phase, and it's just really cool." But that is, like, the biggest thing that I've learned, but anything else you wanna throw in there?
I've said a lot today, so I'm good.
Yo, me and Katie could talk for hours,
We
but,
really could.
um, I did want her to share can you just share about your, teacher training, please? I think it's really, really beneficial. Mhm,
Yes. So,
mhm, mhm.
I came across some comments on my TikTok page from other educators that kept asking, like, "Do you do teacher training?" And I never like really thought about that because I don't see myself as like, who am I to do this? But they see the product and they're like, "How do you do it? How do you get them there?" And I was like, "Well, it really has nothing to
Mhm.
do with the dance. I mean, it has something to do with the dance, but it really has to do with so much of my approach in the room as humans in general. So I touch on a lot of topics, especially the topics that we covered here, about, creating
Mhm.
that safety, that respect, just like different how I operate a classroom, expectations, boundaries, importance of those things, being
Mhm.
intentional. So I think there's like either 7 or 8 different videos, and you can purchase it through TikTok. And so far, I've had really great feedback, and it's been really
Love that.
humbling. It's been a humbling experience, to be honest with you, because I just like am so honored that other educators uh, want to hear what I have to say. So it's just God's really given me this
Yeah.
platform to spread this. And if I can just encourage one teacher to just like love on their kids, unconditionally and wholly, then I feel like my purpose is
Mhm.
fulfilled.
I love that. I love that, I love that, I love that. Um, on that note, I actually started a band app group called Teachers on Purpose, and I would love for Katie to share her link in there. We're gonna share it in the show notes, but if you just wanna be around purposeful teachers, then Teachers on Purpose band app group is probably for you. And it's not something that's like super complex. I just wanted the space where teachers could send each other stuff and it be like, like, hey, I learned this today. Because I feel like there's a lot of Facebook groups, there's all these things, and like that's great. But I feel like, number one, I just love the band app space because I think it's quick
Love
and easy
band.
and boop, boop,
Yeah.
boop. But it's so cool, it's easy, but I think also, like, I just wanted a space that I wish I had.
Mm,
Like, I
yeah.
wish I would have had that when I was younger, and, I think, like, I'm very blessed. I don't wanna ever take for granted that I feel like my circle, like, my best friends in life that are also dancers and also very purposeful and intentional, so I feel like it's easy to have these conversations, like, with Katie or with Tiana, because I'm like, we get it. We feel like, but I love that I have opened this up to other people to feel like so they will know they're not alone. So I really want you guys to check that out. Teachers on Purpose. I will put all that info in our show notes. And Katie, you need to purchase this teacher training because I think it will be like I've taught with Katie for years. Guys, you have to. Like, she's just so incredible, and I feel like it would be such a blessing to your life. You need to. Um, and without further ado, because she's so incredible, I'm gonna do my next teacher announcement because it just makes me so hype. But Katie will be at Summer of Purpose, the experience again this summer. And I'm so excited. She
Yay.
was with us for our first year last summer. And last summer, I've said this like, and I will keep saying it, like, God really showed out. It was so amazing. And it was just a really special weekend. Like, I think it, like, that kind of sums it up. It was a special weekend where, like, it
Yeah.
wasn't just like teachers, when you go to teach a summer intensive and sometimes it gets transactional. I try to avoid situations like that it feels transactional where I'm in and out. I want to be able to speak life and feel like I'm like establishing something there, and I love to work with studios that I feel like care about that. And I feel like that's how this weekend felt. And for me, obviously I put it on, so it's
Yeah.
like I plan these things and I hope that it works. And I feel like it blessed me too in ways that I didn't expect it to. And I was just like, wow. So I'm really grateful this year we have Katie back. And, I announced that we have Tiana too. And we have a few other teachers that I cannot wait to announce, but Katie will be in the building and it's gonna be epic.
Yay. I'm
These
so
kids are gonna just
excited.
be so blessed, and I can't wait because these teachers just love teaching, and I'm so pumped. But Katie, thank you so, so much for
Thank
being a
you.
part of this episode. We love you so much. You're the
Thank you.
best, and
Love
I just love
you.
you. So, love you. All right, everybody. Don't forget that you're loved, that you're seen, that you matter, and that you're amazing. Be you and don't be afraid to be you. Yes? Until next time. Peace. Well, Dance Fam, once again, I'm Ashley Rich, and I want to thank you for listening to the Purpose Chats podcast. To connect with me, you can find me on Instagram at _purposechatspodcast or on my website, www.arichdance.com. I have so many purpose-driven programs that have been curated to help dancers become their best, so be sure to check it out. Until next time, lots of love.